a passenger ship, seeking safe passage through the sea fog strait, made a sacrificial offering to the pirate Stiegel. 2 women were thrown overboard to appease him. One of them, a noblewoman, lamented that she had only boarded the ship to meet her fiancé, terrified that she was about to die. The other woman, a waitress named Cella, was the one who had actually kicked the noblewoman into the sea. The crew, believing they were sacrificing both, commented on her apparent craziness. The noblewoman, whose name was Maria, struggled underwater, believing she was drowning. In her panic, she saw a strange trident tattoo on Cella's ankle before losing consciousness. Both women were rescued by sailors from a warship. Maria awoke, confused to find herself inside a warship. Cella, already conscious, was being questioned by soldiers who were suspicious of her story. She insisted she was a waitress who saved the other woman out of a sense of duty and the very realistic hope of a promotion and bonus from her company. The soldiers were skeptical, especially of her strange, tight-fitting outfit. Cella explained that her clothes were a homemade diving suit she had crafted from a torn sail abandoned at the harbor, designed to be waterproof and retain body heat. A soldier gave her a change of clothes. She almost introduced herself by her full name, Russell, but quickly caught herself, only giving her first name, Cella. She then formally introduced herself to the dazed Maria, who was frightened and confused by Cella's frantic behavior. Cella revealed her internal thoughts. She identified Maria as the protagonist of the novel they were in, the Duchess who fled to the sea. Cella explained that she had been devising a plan for 3 weeks, deliberately getting herself captured by pirates on a wrecked ship with Maria, just to toss her into the sea, and then save her, thereby twisting the original plot. Cella's ultimate dream was revealed to buy a house with a blue roof, pure white walls, and a little dock with a view of the sea, where she could hole up until the story ended. She credited the sea for holding her up during the accident. Maria recalled a hazy memory from when she fell into the sea, asking Cella if she had seen a siren, like being and if breathing inside a bubble of air had been real or just a dream. Alarmed, Cella quickly insisted it must have been her imagination, while unconscious, privately thinking that it would be very bad if Maria discovered she had used siren-like powers and vowing to play it off for now. Cella then urged Maria to continue hiding her noble identity for her own protection. Cella warned Maria about the master of the warship, Admiral Elaine, the mastermind of the novel and leader of the powerful Siren Navy. She described him as a truly villainous man who was lenient with ordinary castaways but always demanded repayment for any help he gave, charging exorbitant interest. He was even harsher toward nobles. Cella insisted that if Maria just pretended to be a commoner, she wouldn't have to get involved with him. Maria refused the advice. As a proud, pure, blood noblewoman of upright character, she intended to reveal her true identity to repay the Admiral for ensuring her safe passage onto his warship, however she could. She was even prepared to use part of her dowry if he demanded an outrageous amount of money. Cella, exasperated by her stubbornness, began looking for a way to break it, dramatically pretending she would be executed for giving false testimony under military law. She gave a long, humorous speech about her last wishes to be buried by the sea, which successfully distracted and concerned Maria, who begged her not to talk about dying and asked to hear more about her dream instead. Cella's dramatic performance worked. Maria was so moved that she expressed a desire to help make Cella's dream come true too. The scene then shifted to Admiral Elaine's dark room, where his aide, Russell Parker, found him. Russell chastised the Admiral for lying about resting his eyes, correctly guessing that he had been reading a letter or report again, a habit he found irritating. Soldiers reported to Elaine that the pirate ship had been sunk by their vessel's attack. While there were no surviving pirates, 2 women had been rescued, and one of them was wearing a diving suit. Elaine, unfamiliar with the term and wearing a disgusted expression, demanded to know what it was. After a soldier explained it was a special suit worn underwater, Elaine questioned where one would even buy such a thing. He was told the waitress didn't buy it. She made it herself from discarded clothes. This raised a critical question for the Admiral. Why would a waitress make something like that? Dissatisfied with the investigation and the strange answers the waitress had given, Elaine declared he would investigate the matter personally, ordering his men to give him the details while they moved. Admiral Elaine, reviewing the report of the rescue, found the details about the waitress Cella highly suspicious. The fact that she had carried an unconscious victim and swam hundreds of meters in rough seas was a feat that even a well-trained Navy soldier would find difficult. He openly questioned whether she was truly just a waitress on a passenger ship. His contemplation was interrupted by an urgent alert. The pirate Stiegel had reappeared. Stiegel had attacked a fishing boat, which was now sinking with one fisherman still aboard. Stiegel had then disappeared into the deep sea, attempting to escape through an underwater canyon. The Admiral's crew informed him that it would take 20 minutes to launch a lifeboat for a rescue. Elaine was forced to make a difficult decision, weighing the option of chasing Stiegel immediately and leaving the fisherman behind against the moral imperative to save a life. Hearing the commotion outside, he wondered what could have happened. Cella emerged to see what was happening. She assessed the urgent situation, realizing the fisherman's time was limited, especially in the rough waves. She was shocked that it would take 20 minutes to launch a lifeboat and chastised the crew for dawdling in an urgent situation. A resolve ignited within Cella, born from a forgotten dream in her past life of wanting to live with the sea she loved most. Thinking of what she needed to do to survive and save the fisherman, she felt a power awaken within her. Cella recalled the moment 2 months ago when she was reborn into this novel world. She had been swept away by a storm and fell into the sea. Her will to live had faded. But then memories of her past life and a brilliant dream of wanting to live with the sea she loved most ignited a new resolve. This allowed her to use her current magic. She moved to the ship's rail and prepared to dive. Admiral Elaine, witnessing this, quickly gave new orders to his crew. If Stiegel appeared targeting the waitress, they were to attack him and immediately save both the fisherman and the waitress. As Cella dove into the water, Elaine sensed a strange and familiar magic emanating from her. He was shocked to see her using the same kind of magic as his own and wondered about her presence. Elaine felt a strange sensation. Noting that being in contact with this woman made his throbbing head feel clear. He was utterly perplexed as to how she could use the same magic as him. After the rescue, Cella lost consciousness from severe fatigue and hypothermia and was moved to the infirmary. She wouldn't wake up, even after the fisherman had regained consciousness. The military doctor diagnosed her condition. When Cella finally awoke in the infirmary, Admiral Elaine was there. He wanted to know why she had saved the fisherman. Cella simply replied, "Because I had to." When he pressed her further about her future plans, she stated she would just go back to the passenger ship once they docked, explaining that she worked there because she could see the sea often. Elaine, intrigued by her love for the sea and impressed by her excellent judgment and courage, told her it was a waste to work on a passenger ship. He then made her an offer, stating, "I'd like to hire you. What do you think?" Cella immediately refused, complaining that soldiers had low pay and no freedom. Cella then abruptly claimed she was getting sleepy and her eyes felt heavy. To the Admiral's astonishment, she fell asleep right in the middle of their conversation. He muttered that he was going to tell her to think about it, but she had fallen asleep, concluding that she was a strange woman, strange enough that he wanted to keep her close and know more about her. 3 days later, the Siren Navy warship arrived at Herbert Port. As Cella prepared to disembark, she was stopped by Admiral Elaine's aide, Russell Parker. He returned the knife she had lent him and offered her travel expenses as a thank you for saving the fisherman. Cella was grateful for the money, but insisted she needed to leave quickly, thanking him for the Navy's kindness. However, Russell had another matter to discuss. He revealed that Admiral Alame himself had offered her a job. Cella was horrified at the thought of being entangled with Alame, believing it would clearly disrupt her planned, peaceful sea life. She urgently felt she needed to make a quick connection to get her compensation from Duke Herbert and be free. Russell persisted, mentioning that the weekly pay was much higher than her current work and that they would provide a dormitory. Cella immediately and firmly declined the offer, finding the Admiral's persistence irritating. Russell told her they would be staying at Herbertport for a week, and that if she changed her mind, she should come find them. Cella then made her way to the Herbert ducal house. Her plan was to get compensation from Duke Herbert and then be free. Inside, Maria confided in her maid. She was troubled because she had gone missing and couldn't properly prepare for her wedding, feeling she had brought great shame to her family and the Herbert family. She was worried about what the Duke and her parents must think of her. The maid observed that Maria, who always put others first, was confiding in her now because it must be a relationship problem. Cella, overhearing, internally summarized the tragic plot. Maria and the Duke had fallen in love at first sight, but were both trapped by misunderstandings. He believed she only boasted about her lineage, and she believed he would look down on her for his own mixed, commoner blood. These mistaken beliefs would lead them to have an unhappy marriage, a situation worsened by Alame's later machinations. Cella was determined to do something to prevent them from going down such a rough path. She approached Maria and correctly deduced that she was worried about what the Duke thought of her. Cella proposed a bet to clear the air. She bet that the Duke loved Maria unconditionally, while Maria, burdened by her insecurities, bet that he disliked her. The loser would receive a flick on the forehead from the winner. Maria was safe and sound, and Cella apologized for making her worry. She then shifted the conversation to her own goals, announcing her desire to buy an isolated house in Montana, her dream Mediterranean-style seaside house. When asked why there of all places, she exclaimed with pure joy that it was because the sea was clear. Maria's maid, shocked that she would want to live alone without family, was cut off as Cella assured her it was okay, because the sea would be there. Maria, referring to Cella as her benefactor, declared that she also wanted to help Cella achieve her dream. She agreed to support her, so she could buy the house, but on one condition: everything that had happened with the pirates had to remain a complete secret. She explained that soon she would be the Duke's wife, and if gossipers found out she had been captured by pirates, they would surely find fault and use it against her. Cella readily agreed to keep the secret. To Cella's utter shock, Maria then presented her with a gift as a small token of her gratitude, a stunning blue diamond. Overwhelmed, Cella could only stare at the incredibly valuable gem, internally screaming that Maria was truly a madman for giving such a gift. Maria apologized for making Cella the subject of such talk and for always owing her, but Cella assured her she was perfectly fine. Later, alone with her thoughts, Cella looked at the blue diamond, contemplating her sailboat and her dream. She was now faced with a monumental decision, whether to accept this life-changing fortune or not. Meanwhile, Admiral Alame was also deep in thought, utterly preoccupied with the mysterious woman who could use magic like his own. He was determined to uncover her true identity, a question that plagued him. Admiral Alame was feeling unwell, but he insisted on listening to Russell's report, believing he would feel better after a bit of rest. Russell began his report by detailing Cella's tragic background. 20 years ago, her family fell into ruin due to her grandfather's gambling and crimes. Orphaned, she had grown up under a disreputable uncle. Russell continued, explaining that not only did Cella's uncle take all of the family's remaining inheritance, but he was also using her salary for illegal businesses. While her uncle lived safely in an upper-class residential area, Cella resided in an attic in a slum near the port. Russell proposed they should try to employ her on the condition of providing a good room in a safe place. When he questioned if the Admiral's unusual interest was because Cella used the same magic as him, Elaine confirmed it. He explained that, in a world where magic users were rare, it would be troublesome if their power became known, as those in power would either try to take it or kill them. He stated they couldn't take this lightly. Elaine clarified that his intention was to keep Miss Cella close, both to monitor and protect her. Russell then reported another crucial matter. The castaway Cella had rescued was Duke Herbert's fiancée, and Cella had received considerable compensation from the Duke for it. Elaine was visibly annoyed, realizing that if he had known the castaway's identity, he could have used it to resolve a troublesome, territorial water issue with the Duke. He coldly declared that Cella would have to make up for this loss herself, and ordered Russell to find out where she was and bring her to him. Meanwhile, Cella was in her attic room in the slum, having packed everything for her departure to Montana. Her final task was to pay her overdue rent for the week. Her plans were interrupted by her aggressive landlord, who confronted her, hurling insults and demanding his money. Cella, fed up with the constant abuse from her life in the slum, finally snapped. She refused to put up with it anymore, and defiantly asked what was with the look in his eyes, ready to stand her ground. She then demanded to know how much of the deposit was left, and how much she owed for the rent. When the landlord failed to answer properly, she insisted he answer her properly. She paid him the £30 he was owed. With the transaction complete, Cella asked if there was anything else she hadn't received, declaring that there were no more issues between them, and that all her resentment was gone. She felt utterly refreshed and free. She remarked that the landlord probably wouldn't dare bother the other tenants for a while after that encounter. Ready to leave her old life behind, she decided to go to a hotel for her departure to Montana the next day. While exploring the city, Cella was drawn to a beautiful siren figurine in a shop. An elderly grandmother, the shopkeeper, noticed her admiration. The grandmother asked if Cella liked sirens. Cella enthusiastically confirmed that she liked them second only to whales. The grandmother explained that ancient sailors believed seeing a siren was a sign of good fortune. Though she noted that sirens were said to have disappeared now, she offered Cella a small siren pendant as a gift, telling her that carrying the symbol of a siren would bring good fortune to her, just like in the old days. She asked Cella to consider it a thank you gift for saving her. Cella was touched and gratefully accepted the gift. The next day, Cella's hopes for good fortune were initially dampened by bad weather that threatened to delay her departure. However, her mood lifted when she decided to use her newfound wealth to treat herself to something expensive to lift her spirits. Cella attended a famous soprano's performance at a luxurious hotel. She was amazed by the number of couples in the audience and the beautiful music, which brought her great comfort. To her complete astonishment, she discovered that Admiral Elaine was in the same hotel. Even more surprising, he approached her. With his wonderfully nice voice, he politely asked, "May I join you?" Leaving her stunned and speechless, Admiral Elaine approached Cella in the hotel, asking politely, "Do you mind if I join you?" Cella was internally stunned by the handsome man, noting that his face and voice felt strangely familiar. Cella observed that Elaine was more handsome than most celebrities from her past life. But she couldn't shake a feeling of déjà vu. She finally asked him if they had met somewhere before. Elaine calmly stated that if they were counting, this would be their third time, listing their encounters on the rescue boat and in the infirmary. He then revealed he knew she had stopped by Duke Herbert's estate and accused her of conspiring with the Duke's fiancée to deceive him. He coldly informed her that, because she had kept Maria completely hidden, he had suffered a great loss. Cella was internally horrified, recognizing him as the main villain of the novel. She realized that if she hadn't hidden Maria's identity, Elaine would have taken her hostage to blackmail Duke Herbert, just as he did in the original story. She thought his villainous personality was showing by calling this a loss and worried he wouldn't let her off the hook. As she panicked about what to do, Elaine stated that he would like to offer her a proposal. Cella honestly admitted to herself that she didn't want to get any more involved with Elaine. However, she reasoned that if she didn't at least hear his offer, he would just keep chasing and harassing her, which would ruin her plan for a happy life in Multana. She decided that just running away wouldn't solve anything, and that she should hear the proposal first before deciding what to do. She then asked him what it was that he wanted to propose. Elaine's response was that the Siren family would hire her, and the matter was settled. Cella was shocked, thinking, "I knew it! He wants to hire me!" She was immediately concerned that accepting would mean boarding a warship or going to the capital, preventing her from living in Multana. She demanded to know why on earth he was going to such lengths to hire her. Elaine replied that he couldn't answer that there. When Cella asked what he meant by working closely with him, he explained it meant exactly what it sounded like. She just had to be where he could see her while doing whatever she wanted to do. Skeptical, Cella asked what if she wanted to be a sea loafer. The Elaine asked if her dream was to live a leisurely life, lying around on the ocean like a seal, patting her stomach while collecting her weekly pay on time, and asked if she was sure she was okay with that. When Cella confirmed she was a lost cause, he remarked that this would be the first time he'd ever hired a sea seal. Noting that the conversation was going to drag on forever, with so many people around, he suggested they move. Elaine got up close to her and stated that the pain in his head was less severe when he was with her. He also mentioned that he thought she smelled like lemons. When he asked if she thought he had a sour smell, she clarified that was not what she meant. Their conversation was interrupted by a waiter bringing the cheesecake they had ordered. Elaine, noticing she liked it, remarked that he supposed he'd have to provide an unlimited supply of cheesecake as part of the employment. Cella found him really strange, even while acknowledging he was handsome. Their very public interaction was drawing attention and gossip from the hotel staff. Elaine made his offer clear, stating he would pay her 4 times the weekly wage and provide lodging in a safe place. He asked if there were any other terms she would like to add. Cella internally noted the unbelievably good conditions, but was deeply suspicious, believing there was no such thing as a free lunch. She was convinced any job that was easy, comfortable, and high-paying was either illegal or a scam. Most importantly, she believed the reason he was trying so hard to hire her was because of her magic. And she feared the worst-case scenario was that he might treat her like a lab rat for his magic research. Cella made herself clear, stating she had absolutely no intention of working for the Siren family. When Elaine asked if she had a particular reason for refusing his excellent terms, she explained that she was more comfortable on her own and didn't want to be tied down to a job somewhere. Even his offer to hire her personally was declined because, as a famous public figure, he was always surrounded by people. She firmly declined the offer. Elaine was then struck by a strange feeling. A sudden, loud noise echoed through the hotel. Elaine's aide, Russell, asked if he was all right and identified the sound as a gas explosion. He reported that a gas engine was likely affected by the storm outside and that there were still people in the boiler room. However, the wind and rain were too strong to go outside, trapping the 4 people inside. Cella saw this as the absolute perfect time to escape. With a storm outside and a gas explosion inside, she reasoned that no one would notice if she slipped out of the hotel. She thought that even if Elaine was still up to rescuing them, he wouldn't be able to chase her now. She was confused as to why a supposed merciless villain would be involved in a rescue. However, Cella hesitated. She questioned if it was right for her to leave in a chaotic mess like this. She realized that even if she succeeded in getting to Multana, she would later be haunted. If she saw a newspaper article saying many people died at the hotel, or that Elaine was seriously injured. She stated that she wanted to live her life with a clear conscience and didn't want to leave a stain like that on her perfect life plan. She resolved that she had to hurry and help Elaine before it was too late. Cella arrived at the scene of the fire, bringing a fire hose with her. A hotel staff member thanked her for her help and updated her on the situation, explaining that some of the trapped people had been rescued by the Admiral. But one person was still inside. There was concern about whether the Admiral could withstand the flames, and someone asked if the fire hose had been activated yet. Cella refused to believe the novel's villain would die in a place like this, convinced he must still be alive. Cella found Elaine and called out to him, relieved that he was safe and asking if he was all right. Elaine replied that he was fine and instructed her to see to the wounded. A soldier confirmed the Admiral was unharmed. The hose was readied, and fire suppression began. Cella was internally shocked that he would dive straight into the flames to save strangers he had never even met. Cella observed that Elaine didn't seem like a cold-blooded, scheming villain from a novel at all, but like an entirely different person. However, she noted that spraying water only from the entrance would not be enough to extinguish the fire, as the interior was wide and the deeper flames inside wouldn't be reached. It seemed impossible. But Elaine stated there was another way. Cella was conflicted, remembering that just moments ago, she had been ready to run away rather than get more involved. Cella was torn between the image of the villain Elaine from the novel who tormented Maria and the Elaine now who was saving people. She wanted to find out which one was his true self. Elaine explained that the stable and the boiler room were right beside each other and that the storm had damaged the stable. He announced their plan to enter the boiler room through there. Elaine warned everyone to move carefully as they made their way. A strange sound was heard, and Elaine urged everyone to move quickly. The wind was too strong, making it difficult to move properly. A close call with falling debris was narrowly avoided. The group managed to get inside. Cella was worried about Elaine, noting that he looked worse and worse and wondering if he would collapse at this rate. The cause of the incident was revealed. A great tree had fallen in the storm and crushed the wall of the hotel's boiler room nearby. That shock was what must have caused the fire. As the rain poured down, a moment of silence hung in the air. A voice, perhaps a memory or inner thought, whispered the name, Miss Cella. The man stood alone, drenched, lost in thought. His eyes narrowed in realization as the voice continued. From this moment, what you are about to see must remain a secret for life. A sudden shift in the atmosphere caught him off guard. What all of a sudden? He muttered, confusion flashing across his face. Then, without warning, the water around him responded to his presence. With an elegant motion of his hand, it surged upward in a brilliant display of power. Blue light glowed as water swirled like ribbons, encasing him in a mystical aura. 2SL. The word echoed. A spell. A name. Now fully awakened, his posture changed. He stood tall, calm, and resolute, water flowing around him like an extension of his will. His wet clothing clung to him, but his eyes burned with quiet intensity. A power had been called forth, and he had accepted it. Cella watched in amazement as all the rainwater began flowing toward Elaine. She had never seen such beautiful magic in her life. Cella was stunned, asking if Elaine had ever used magic before in the story. She knew this wasn't the best time, but she had to ask what kind of magic that was just now. She pointed out that he must also be using it himself. As a trident mark, the same that appears on her neck when she uses magic, was visible on him. He dismissed her questions, stating that explanations could come later, and that for now, they needed to put out the fire. He was overcome by a coughing fit. Cella noticed the bleeding from Elaine's wounds wouldn't stop. She had thought his actions were only out of a sense of duty, as an admiral. But now she wondered why he would risk himself so recklessly. She realized that if she just watched, he would drive himself over the edge. She pleaded with him to stop now and leave the rest to her. urging Russell to gather people to finish putting out the fire. She deduced that Elame's magic was seeping out through the wounds in his body, which was why he was getting weaker and weaker. She begged him to stay with her. Cella realized with shock that her own magic was being absorbed into Elame. The crisis was finally over, and Cella noted they could finally catch their breath. She used her magic to summon a whale made of water to help. Elame asked if she was all right and thanked her for helping him. Cella was flustered, saying she didn't really do anything. She was internally stunned that the novel's villain had just said, "Thank you," to her. She then insisted that he needed to get to a hospital first, but he suggested they go to the guest room instead. Cella was confused when they arrived at the guest room, which was equipped with a large tub-like pool. She asked if this was the right place, as it just looked like a bath to her, and questioned if it could contain medicine. She was even more surprised to see a siren present. Cella was in a state of shock, looking at Elame and wondering if he could really be a siren. Her thoughts were in turmoil. Even in the original story, he was described as a dangerous villain. But now nothing in this story matched the original at all. She observed that he was recovering in the water, and noted that it seemed like it would be problematic if he woke up in his current state. Even if this Elame was different from the original depiction, she knew he was someone who had tried multiple ways to keep her by his side. Cella concluded that to achieve her dream, she had to push him away. A thought crossed her mind: maybe it was better if she just ran away. Beneath a soft, magical glow, the silver-haired man stood still, his expression calm yet intense. Around his neck hung a mysterious pendant that shimmered faintly with energy. With a firm yet gentle hand, he reached out and pressed the pendant to the chest of the startled young woman before him. Her breath caught as their fingers met. A quiet pulse echoed between them. Thump, thump. Not just from her heart, but from something deeper. Something magical. The girl, wide-eyed and flushed, looked up at him, startled and confused. She could feel it. Something was happening. Then, without warning, the world shifted. In a sudden burst of light and energy, the pendant activated. A swirl of water and magic enveloped them, both as the girl was drawn into its power. She cried, startled, as water surged around her, forming a magical barrier, like an ornate glass sphere. She floated gently inside it, suspended in awe and disbelief. What is this? She gasped, surrounded by glowing water and mystic symbols. And then came the quiet narration, like a whisper from fate itself. All of this started from that one moment. A moment that would change everything. Cella found herself in an embarrassing position, feeling her chest tighten and her hands get hot. She tried to calm down and pull away, but a new realization dawned on her. She wondered if her energy was flowing into him and helping him recover, recalling that earlier, when they touched, Elame's power had gotten stronger too. Cella was conflicted. She believed that if she stayed, he would keep holding her so she couldn't go anywhere and would interfere with her dream. She remembered his words, "This time, I'll stay by your side until your body recovers." But she still wanted to get out of the embarrassing position. Elame's condition had improved, luckily. The magic that was about to run out had recovered. He felt a warm energy flowing through his body. However, when he awoke, his first thought was to ask where Cella was. Russell reported to Elame, asking if Miss Cella was still at the hotel. He revealed that her last appearance was some time ago, and asked if Elame had transformed into that form. Russell provided an update, stating that Cella had snuck out of the hotel. He apologized for not catching her, admitting he was too flustered. Significant time had passed since the incident. Tracking Miss Cella, they discovered she had reportedly taken the passenger ship to Multina 2 days ago. Russell confirmed this from a note Cella had left behind, which was full of details about Multina's waterfront geography and real estate prices. She had even moved out of her old apartment, confirming she was planning to live in Multina. Elame found this information interesting, noting that Multina happened to be where he had a villa for breaks. He dryly observed that it seemed Miss Cella really had no talent for running away. He then gave the order to immediately go after the Multana-bound ship. On the ship, Cella was researching real estate. She found an isolated house in the Lias forest that seemed suitable. The listing was from someone seeking a successor for the title of Sea Keeper, with the house being sold at a discounted price to the chosen successor. The requirements were to truly love the sea. Cella thought it wasn't a bad option, but considering Elaine would probably follow soon, she knew she couldn't leisurely choose a house. To her frustration, she realized she had forgotten the note and left it behind. Her priority was to go into hiding in Multana, and she planned that if Elaine caught up to the ship, she would swim and escape. Cella was worried about what would happen if Elaine still found her hiding in Multana. She clung to the hope that since Elaine owed her for her help, they could at least talk. Her planning was interrupted when the ship suddenly stopped. A Navy ship was doing a temporary inspection. She was shocked at how fast the Navy had found her. On the Navy ship, Elaine ordered his crew to pass through and close the distance without a sound. A huge naval vessel approached Cella's ship. Cella saw the massive Navy ship and realized this was Plan B, a route she hadn't anticipated. She was cornered. Cella decided she had to use Plan B immediately. Convinced that Elaine, with his social standing to consider, wouldn't jump into the sea in front of all his people, she made the drastic decision to dive into the ocean from the high deck of the ship to escape. Elaine watched in shock as Cella jumped. He realized he had been too hasty and had done something completely out of character, backing her into a corner. He knew the journey from their current location to Multana would take at least 2 hours even by warship, and there was no telling what dangers she might face traveling on her own. He admitted to himself that it was his fault. Elaine decided to act, telling his crew he was leaving the place in their hands. He ignored Russell's protests not to leave him behind and dove into the sea after her. His crew was left in a state of panic, worried that the Admiral chasing a woman would turn into a messy scandal. Cella, now free in the water, planned to just enjoy the ocean view on her way to Multana. However, she noticed the fish were moving strangely and wondered if something had happened. She then spotted a whirlpool forming in the water. Cella suddenly heard a voice in her head, asking her to wait and warning that it was dangerous to go to Multana by herself. She wondered if Elaine was sending her a telepathic message. She then saw him approaching and yelled at him, calling him a crazy bastard for being an admiral who would abandon his warship to come after her. He warned her that it was dangerous to keep hitting the water like that, and told her to get out of the whirlpool. Once they were on a safer shore, Cella confronted Elaine angrily. She reminded him that she had kept his secret and even nursed him back to health, and he had repaid her by chasing her down, scheming, and trapping her. She asked if this was his way of thanking her for helping him. Elaine apologized, saying he had no excuse. Cella accused him of abuse of power, illegal surveillance, and kidnapping. Their argument was interrupted by the arrival of a pod of dolphins. Cella noticed one white dolphin lagging behind the pod all by itself. They saw that the white albino dolphin had a net tangled on its tail that was digging into its skin, causing a severe wound. Cella remarked that it must hurt. Elaine noted the dolphin would need help before it fell further behind, and, since Cella had a knife, asked her to cut the net. Cella agreed, cut the net free, and assured the dolphin it would be okay now. She worried the salt water would sting the wound and cause it to thrash around, but was surprised by how calm it remained. Cella found the experience heartwarming, noting that the dolphin was cute. She recalled the saying that anyone who's good to animals can't be a bad person, which made her think that perhaps Elaine was a villain only to her. Elaine informed her it was time to send the dolphin back to its pod, but expressed concern that since it was an albino, it would stand out more and be in danger if it lost the pod. Cella told the dolphin to be careful on its way back and said it was nice to meet the little albino dolphin. Back on the deck of his ship, Elaine asked Cella why she was so quiet. he asked her if she would give him a chance to right his wrongs. Cella, realizing that if he was just going to chase her, even if she ran away, decided to implement Plan C. She pointed out that, as it happened, she had the upper hand. She stated that Admiral Elaine owed her two things. She offered to forgive the debt for chasing her down and causing all this trouble if he would just make it so the Siren family suffered no losses because of her. For the remaining debt, she said she wanted a remote house in Montana, and she wanted him to help her with that. Asked if her dream to live freely by the sea was because the seas of Montana were so clean, and you could see a lot of marine life there. Cella agreed to his proposal, but questioned how she could possibly trust his word, suggesting they should at least write up a contract. Elaine agreed that earning her trust came first, and decided to use a magical vow of binding for important oaths. He swore, "I, Elaine Siren, swear upon the chains of this vow. I will repay my debt to Cella Cardin. And should I break this promise, the chains of this vow will stop my heart." After the powerful magical vow was made, Elaine asked Cella, "What did you just do to your heart?" referring to the serious nature of the vow. He then asked her, "Will you trust me now?" Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video, hit that subscribe button, and drop a comment saying Part 2. If you want me to continue this series!